Welcome everyone to the Tulsa.NET user group. Tonight, Maddy Montaquila here to talk about .NET MAUI. Maddy, so great to have you here. We've been so excited about this. We've there's been a lot of talk about this topic, so I'm so glad you are here. This is great. Maddy, please take it away.
Sweet. Thank you so much. Thank you everybody for joining. Yeah, if you want to turn on your camera, feel free. I don't mind if you're in your basement dungeon. I don't mind if you have your whiskey or on the rocks or whatever it is, or straight up. So come on in and feel free to use the chat too. We just had .NET Conf, so hopefully many of you caught a lot of that content. Thank you, John, who's on the call. Hi, John, for like organizing a bunch of that, including doing most of the masterminding behind the keynote, which was very fun. So because we just had .NET Conf, there's not a bunch of new stuff to talk about. So what I decided I'm going to do for this is give you a quick recap of what we talked about, but with my flavor, the Maddy spin, if you will. So the things that I can't say in the 40-minute .NET Conf talk that's like actually kind of rehearsed and like I'm supposed to say the right things. I'm going to give you the background on things, and then I would love for you to interrupt me, ask questions, comments, memes, whatever it is. I am more than happy to to lead this the way that you all want to go. And then I have a couple demos. I know this is really about tips and tricks. I could sit in Visual Studio and poke around and show you things that I like to do for like 3 hours. So I'm going to try and keep this somewhat organized. To start off, is there like polls or something in this? No, there isn't. I'm going to put a message in the chat. And if you have never tried MAUI, emoji react to it. Try MAUI, emoji react to this. Because that will let me know how much intro stuff I should do. So I'll give you a minute to do your little emojis. And I will quickly introduce myself while you do that. I'm Maddy. I'm a product manager on .NET on MAUI. My focus is usually on productivity, so like developer productivity tooling, which is why I like to do the kind of tips and tricks talks, like, you know, talk about random things in Visual Studio that people never find out about. But I also have started to look more into like the cloud development stuff, like how can MAUI work with Aspire? What do we do about backends? Like, what about testing? All of these things. I'm starting to kind of tease those things apart. And then always just a bunch of crazy stuff, whatever gets thrown at me that day. So yeah, lots of cool stuff and only a couple of reacts. So I'll do the quick version of the thing. And then if anyone needs a, better explanation after, I'm more than happy to do it. And I will come back to this question from Gajuro. Sorry if I butchered it. But we'll come back to that question in a minute too. So yeah, other question, does Xamarin Forms count as MAUI XF? So the history lesson is that Xamarin Forms, actually, wait, back on this slide. I can do the history lesson on this slide. So I joined 5.5 years ago, almost 6 years ago now, shortly after Xamarin got acquired by Microsoft. I think I was their first PM hire as part of Microsoft. Which was pretty funny because they had no idea how to hire me. Literally, the hiring manager at the time called me and was like, I don't know how to get recruiting to send you an offer. So that was fun. I like was panicking. I was like, why is this guy calling me? It all worked out. But this was very much back in the Xamarin days. You know, it was a separate thing. It was acquired. Xamarin brought in Mono and Miguel, if you know, Miguel de Casa, who, you know, was kind of the spearhead of the open source .NET fork, which was Mono. And Microsoft acquired them and brought them in and open source .NET and decided to start kind of unifying Mono and .NET. And that's around the time I came in. So it was a pretty crazy time. But we were very much still in the Xamarin Forms world. We were like, how do we make Xamarin Forms the coolest thing ever? And at some point, a couple of years in, February 2020, if any of you know what happens shortly after February 2020, I'm sure you know where the story is going. But we were sitting in Redmond in Microsoft HQ, and I was sitting with some of the Xamarin heavy hitters, you know, James Clancy and James Montemagno and Dave Wertnow, and they were like, we're merging with .NET, we're rebranding, we're going to call it Bloom or something stupid. I have no idea what their ideas were for names. And they were like, but it's like the next generation of Xamarin Forms. We're evolving it. It's going to be awesome. It's happening. We're going to ship it with .NET 5 in the fall. And I was like, yeah, I'm in. Let's do it. 2 weeks later, everything shut down. We did not ship with .NET 5, believe it or not. But the branding police did not like Bloom. They thought that was pretty stupid, but that's okay. So we ended up with .NET MAUI, which is really just an evolution of Xamarin Forms. Most of the code stays the exact same. John, you kid, but someone actually proposed .NET Forms as a name. I almost had a meltdown. I was like, we are not doing this. .NET Forms? Are you kidding me? That's the worst part of the Xamarin Forms name. Anyways, so this was the evolution into MAUI, multi-platform app UI. And the big changes we made were really folding in desktop as like an actual first-party experience. So Xamarin was really iOS and Android, and then kind of UWP as an afterthought. It would have been UWP for reals if the Windows Phone stuck around, but it didn't. But then we formally adopted kind of Windows and Mac desktop stories into the MAUI story. And then really the biggest complaint we had with Xamarin was that there was just too much to learn. There was too much going on. There was too much native stuff you had to figure out just to get started. And we had to do some kind of breaky things to make that better in MAUI. But the biggest change really was giving it a single code base, a single project system. You don't have to have your Xamarin Forms app, your Android app, your iOS app, your Windows app. You just have the MAUI app, and we're able to run everything from there. You can put all your resources in the same place. You don't need to have like 80 copies of images everywhere. So that was the original value prop of MAUI. We've improved on a bunch of things beyond Xamarin Forms. Like we refactored a ton of how we did just like the native control rendering to make it easier for us to maintain it and also for you all to extend it. But the big sell for MAUI is that it's this single project system, single code base targeting desktop and mobile. Before I get the Linux question, we do not target Linux right now. I know a lot of people want it. Why don't we target Linux? Because it's very hard to choose a single UI framework to do Linux on because nothing covers everything. GTK is kind of like the obvious choice, but like a lot of people don't like it. Also, it's like a whole other platform we'd have to invest in. Well, we need Linux. Okay, yeah, no, I would like Linux too. I used Ubuntu solely for like 5 years in Vim. So, yeah, but what I see with Linux right now is maybe some kind of like hybrid experience where we lean heavily on the web view side of things, which we'll talk about. But I just like to preempt that question when I'm not giving like my formal real talks, because I know that's the first question everyone has when they see this slide. So cool. I told you, you're getting the uncut, like Maddy version. This is unedited. You're getting all the deets. So I will scroll up to the question before. .NET for 20 years, newbie in MAUI. Welcome to the party. It's a good time. Produce a simple MAUI app. Debugs on Windows and Android, and might debug on the iPad. Yep. Publishing, registering. Okay. So the docs for publishing right now, we mostly rely on the native stuff. So what's cool about MAUI is it's a native app. It is like iOS does not know it's a MAUI app. It just knows it's an app that runs on an iPhone. Same with Android, same with Windows. So the way that you'd publish to the store, it would be the same way with any app, whether it's a native Android app, a React Native app, a Flutter app, a MAUI app, Apollonia, Uno, whatever. So Google and Apple have those guides for their like publishing workflows. We have some basic docs on how to like package it and get it ready for publishing. So learn.microsoft.com/ I don't know. If you go there and then you search MAUI, you'll get to our docs, and then you'll find the publishing ones in there. I do have someone on our team who is thinking about doing like a blog post on like publishing their app to all the stores. So I'll let them know that someone else is asking about it, because I think that would be a really cool thing to have. But yeah, and recorded. That's okay. I'm not saying anything I can't say on the internet. I'm just saying things that, John would be upset if I used airtime on our very expensive and popular .NET Conf to complain about. So anyways, yeah. Anything that you folks want to see more docs or anything for, definitely like continue popping them our way, because that's how we prioritize things. So .NET's great. You all know that. You don't need to see this slide because you're all .NET developers, so that's awesome. MAUI itself. So one of the questions I hear all the time is like, is MAUI a thing? Like, is just another, is MAUI going to get silver lighted? If I had a drink every time I heard that in the year 2023, I would not make it to the new year. That is what I have to say to you about that. I cannot predict the future. So sure, maybe, but based on the momentum of MAUI and comparing it to how other frameworks have gone, other UI frameworks on Microsoft have gone, so far so good, right? Like there aren't any red flags or like giant sirens on the horizon that anyone should be worried about the way there have been with some frameworks. Obviously not every time it's predictable, but we are very active in the open source world, which is really good. People like it the same level as they get .NET Core. Like we pass them in stars, which is crazy. .NET Core has a lot of stars, so that's pretty exciting. And most importantly, in .NET 8, we closed over 1,600 PRs, which is a lot. That's like what, like 4 or 5 a day. So that's pretty good. And a lot of those were community created or community reviewed. So we still have a lot of issues open on the GitHub. We still have a lot of PRs that we need to close, but it's not that we're, not doing anything. It's just that the volume is really high. So we're making magic happen. But other things I can say that I can't put on a slide, like we have now passed Xamarin usage all up. So one of our biggest focuses, especially right now, is still migrating people off of Xamarin onto MAUI. Those lines have crossed. It took a lot longer to get .NET Framework lower than .NET Core. So that's a really good sign. After .NET 8, usage has gone like way up. People are migrating to .NET 8 faster than ever. I think we've already like surpassed downloads from the last .NET Con for .NET 7. So momentum is good. It's there. I promise. I feel like I have to keep saying this, like, oh my God. We also have customers, like real human beings that ship apps with it, including internal customers, which I get all the time. Another unfiltered Maddy moment is like, why doesn't Teams use MAUI? Do you know how hard it would be to get me to ask the Teams team to rewrite the entire Teams stack again? Do you know what they would say to me? I would lose my job. Like, why doesn't Office use MAUI? Because Office has used JavaScript for like 15 years. They're not switching. They hired a bunch of JavaScript engineers, all right? I don't know what to tell you. So what we're looking at from the MAUI perspective is teams that have .NET investments, teams in Microsoft that have .NET skills that did not use .NET before because there wasn't our native cross-platform story, that are starting apps now, and that want to leverage those same .NET developers for their apps, right? There were also some internal apps that had used Xamarin that we wanted to migrate over. So, oh my God, my food's here. Oh, thank you. I won't eat this on camera. I won't eat this until I'm done talking, but thanks. Bye, husband. Back into the living room he goes. But yeah, so there are plenty of internal teams we're talking to. Internal usage of MAUI from like a actual number of users has gone up pretty significantly, especially in the past 6 months or so. Internally, we can see like who is actually using it. So we've now started to reach out to people and be like, are you just playing around with it? Is this something your team is trying to ship an app with? Like, what's going on? Because we hear loud and clear that Microsoft not having internal apps that use MAUI is not good for all of your confidence in the platform. So we're really trying to bolster those stories and hear more from folks. So yeah. Any hoopst, .NET 8 shipped. It is awesome. Really, the focus was stability and bug fixes. I think that was like 90% of the work we did. But we always make sure performance gets better release over release. That's kind of like one of the .NET things. We did a lot with desktop apps and with hybrid apps. So if any of you are Blazor developers or even JavaScript developers, there's ways to utilize that within MAUI. And then we always work on, the tooling side, the productivity side. We're going to continue to roll out improvements kind of incrementally there. Those aren't really tied to .NET as much as they're tied to Visual Studio updates. So it's kind of a different cadence, but we try to talk about them together because they're siblings, they work hand in hand. So the first thing I want to do is like the quickest demo in the entire world, which is literally show people who don't have MAUI how easy it is to start using MAUI. If you have Visual Studio installed, you hit modify. Ready? This is the demo of the year right here. Hold on, let me turn on Zoom it. And then you scroll, or you just look at .NET multi-platform app UI development, which is the biggest word salad of all time. And you check it off and it installs all the things you need. It even installs like the Android SDK stuff you need. And in as long as you have like .NET general development, like it has everything. Anything you need to use MAUI, it's going to be there. So then once you have it all installed, Android takes a little while to install. That's not our fault. That's Google's fault. Love you, Google, but seriously. You can just create a new project. Go to whatever, how you ever want to do it. I always do MAUI here. You can call it something that's more useful than MAUI app 1. Obviously choose .NET 8 because that's the coolest. And let it create. And then we're going to take a quick look at the anatomy of a MAUI project. I'm going to put on my biologist hat. No, I don't like that. Never mind. But if you are unfamiliar with it, hopefully this is my regular Visual Studio, not my fancy Visual Studio. If you're unfamiliar with it, it should be fairly easy to poke around the template and just see what's going on. It is XAML based by default, XAML based UI. If you hate XAML, if you're allergic to it, you can do everything in C#, or you can use Razor, which we will talk about at another time and later. But for your template's going to give you XAML, main page, right? Oh, come on. It's just a XAML file. It's got labels and stuff. Why is this not minimizing? Go away. It's going over here. That was good. The most important thing you need to know about a MAUI app is like to change the platform you're building for. You go to the little debug menu and you hover over framework, and then you just pick the one you want. If you're on Windows, you can do Windows or Android. There are ways to do iOS on Windows, which we'll talk about later too. But for the basic part, like the easiest thing to do is just build it to your local Windows machine. That's that. And this is assuming most of you are Windows developers, but I know not all of you are. We will also talk about Mac development in a bit. But the easiest way to get started with MAUI, literally hit that checkbox, file new app, and then change however you want to deploy it and run it, and you get our beautiful template.
Hey, Maddy.
Yeah.
So you said earlier that MAUI is Blazor friendly?
Yes, it is.
Cool. Can you expound on that a little bit? I got a question in chat about that.
Let me.
Or is that something you're going to cover here in a little bit?
I'm going to cover it, but I think it's in like 2 slides, so I'll skip ahead for a little bit. I just want this app to build so you can see it. Also, how are you reaching out through Visual Studio notifications directly? I don't know if I'm directly, because the telemetry like that we get for internal users, not for external users. There's no way for us to contact an external user from telemetry. That's just like not possible. Everything has to be through Visual Studio. But internally, we are able to see like who it is, and I just have been pinging them on Teams. Like it's not that deep. So this is the app template. Why is it? Oh, because Zoom is on top of it. Zoom. That's it. Look at that. Look at that nice little button with a gradient. The .NET 8 template is so much better. But yeah, that's literally, this is what we give you. And then you click the button and it increments the click. That's your template. That's all you need to get started. We got an image in there. Nothing crazy. So that's your first MAUI app. Let's talk hybrid. So you might have seen in the templates that, will this work? Yeah. There was also under the MAUI dropdown a Blazor, .NET MAUI Blazor hybrid template that we give you. There was a huge ask from Blazor developers around the same time we were getting MAUI off the ground to provide like offline functionality, right? So if you're on a phone, like, can I use my Blazor app? Oh, hey, Scott, balloons. I was just talking about how you keep kicking my butt in fantasy football this season because my team sucks, but it's fine. So Blazor, like a lot of people were like, hey, I want to be able to use offline storage. I want to be able to tap into the like location of the device or the accelerometer and like use those things. Like, how do I make my Blazor app native? And we were like, oh, we'll just take Blazor and we'll stick it in MAUI. It's all .NET. Like, we don't have to run any other .NET versions because MAUI's running it. So that's what we've been calling Blazor hybrid. So basically you can take either like a single control, a single a single like Blazor control. You can take a whole bunch of Blazor components. You can take an entire Blazor app and shove it into what we call a Blazor web view in MAUI. And with the MAUI part of the app, right, it shares the same state and data and everything as the Blazor part. So you can access all of those native APIs. You can use things like the system tray in Windows, or you can do things like when you hold on the app icon, it gives you quick actions, right? Like all of those things are possible through the MAUI side, but you can reuse as much Blazor UI as you want. And it's not like it's running a browser, it's just running the web view. So it's literally just rendering the controls. You're not running the browser on the device. So the performance is really, really good. And, you know, the good thing about a native thing, web, like if you look at the slide from before, right? Like web really has the reach. You can get to the web and a website from nearly anywhere. But app stores have a special type of like visibility and distribution and the linking that you can get from, you know, download our app. That's a lot stickier than like go to our website, right? For a user, if they see the app on their phone, they're probably going to open it again. So there's a lot of value to have in the native story. One thing that we're looking at that is not quite in production yet, but that we've gotten a lot of interest on, and so it's been a big topic in our .NET 9 planning. This was the slide I meant to change. It was not tomorrow at 3:30. It was like 2 weeks ago at 3:30. But there is a talk on the hybrid web view from .NET Conf. But it's basically Blazor hybrid except with JavaScript instead of Blazor. So a .NET MAUI web view hosting kind of your static web assets. So you can reuse like your Angular components or React the same way that you would with the Blazor hybrid story. And a lot of people that we talk to, a lot of customers have .NET backends in .NET. .NET backends in .NET, yeah. But then they have JavaScript front ends and would love to start, you know, moving more towards .NET so that they can kind of consolidate skill sets. And this is a really easy way to do it. Or, you know, they like JavaScript for UI and they want to use JavaScript for UI, but they don't want to use React Native because they have a bunch of .NET on the back end, right? Like this is a really good way to start kind of bridging that gap. So cool. So that was your Blazor hybrid thing. I am not like the Blazor hybrid expert. I would look up Gerald vs. Lewis on YouTube or Alon Lipton, Beth Massey. Dan Roth has done some good hybrid stuff, and Steve Sanderson. I avoid web like the plague. I have one Blazor app that I open and I get very upset about because I hate Razor syntax. So if I'm definitely, Sean, if you want a Blazor hybrid person to come on here and give you a demo at some point too, I can definitely help you set that up. Not that you need that. I'm sure you already know everybody, but sweet. So yeah, it's awesome. We have a couple customers that are already doing it. They literally, like, in the least nice way to put it, they took their Blazor app and they shoved it into a MAUI host and they put it on the store. Like, yeah. Alon and Beth would be awesome to have. They're a dynamic duo. They're a good time. So other random .NET 8 things before I get into the Maddy clicks around in Visual Studio for 20 minutes and you all have a good time. I was talking about how we brought desktop kind of into the full MAUI story. .NET 7, we started with like tooltips was a big thing, like being able to right click, because with mobile phones, you didn't click on things, you tapped on things. And then people were like, I have a mouse. And we were like, that's just a long press. And they were like, no, it's not, it's a right click. And so we had to kind of rethink some of the things we were doing in Xamarin. Hi, James. Oh my gosh, the whole squad's here. You guys have a great, what a party. Yeah, so, you know, just like being able to right click in a desktop app, that was pretty fundamental. That was .NET 7. .NET 8's getting a little bit more exciting. My favorite thing is custom keyboard accelerators. Like you can make shortcuts in your apps now, which we didn't think people really did. But then everyone was like, no, I need like Command P to do this thing in my app. And we were like, oh, we should probably build that. So we did. And it's super easy to do. I think, like, in general, the XAML syntax is very verbose, but it's very readable. Like if you're not familiar with XAML at all and you read this, you see there's a menu with a flyout item. And that flyout item is the custom file thing. And then there's a key for your keyboard accelerator, and there's a modifier. Like, good, I can follow that. So that's all you have to do. These flyout items were a .NET 7 thing, so you can do that icon and all that different stuff. So, I think it's actually called a secondary click to do a right click now. So that's like if you also long press. So we're trying to make sense between the mobile and desktop worlds and kind of do the best for everybody, but also in places like this, do the things that are right for specific idioms, right? Idiom being desktop or mobile or tablet. We also started doing drag and drop stuff. That was something that like we had a pretty good like solution for doing it on mobile with just like press and hold gesture recognizers, but it wasn't quite the same with mouse. So we relooked at that and we redid it for WinUI in particular, and it's a lot better. And then pointer gestures. So actually like being able to see that the pointer was held down on something, the actual mouse, those are all different things too. So again, slightly different than like how you'd use your finger on a phone. So we had to build a slightly different solution for it for desktop. So in the .NET Conf talk, Dave Ortnow, my partner in crime, did a very funny demo where he showed all of these things in code. And then he like dragged things to a cart, and like Scott's face popped up. And my face popped up at one point too. So that was fun. So definitely go back and watch that. I'm not going to recreate that demo because I'm not going to do it as well as Dave, and you can watch it on the internet. So why watch me do it here? Other things, right to left, big thing, not as big in the States, but in case you guys didn't know, .NET is like huge globally. .NET all over the place. Like it's not like something that's very central to the US or to North America. Like the amount of people we have in Asia and Europe, like using .NET, huge population. So for a lot of the Maui team, most of us are based in the States. We have a lot of folks based in Europe, but we don't have a lot of folks based in Eastern Europe, or like the Middle East. And then we had a bunch of customers like, why don't you have like an easy right to left layout support? And we were like, oh yeah, that's a good one. So have diverse teams. That's the lesson, pretty much. Just don't think that people only in the States will use your stuff. But and then yeah, like I said, a ton of bug fixes. We merged in a ton of PRs. If you tried Maui a year ago, how do I say this politely? Let's see. It was still very immature. I think we still have some things to work on, but it is significantly better now. I was at Ignite, which was the same week as .NET Conf. I don't know why we did that. I needed to sleep literally all last week to recover. I know John did too. My God. But I talked to a lot of people at Ignite who were like, the first time I ran into them, they were like, oh, well, I tried Maui last year and it kind of, and I was like, all right, I hear you. I get it. Try it again. Let me know. And I actually had like 3 or 4 people come back up to me and be like, oh my God, I installed it and it just worked. And like, it's working. And I was like, yes, oh my God, they actually pay me to do something useful. This is the best day of my life. So I would definitely recommend giving it a shot again if you tried it a year ago and you were not psyched. Again, so Scott, you probably, and James, you probably missed too. I said this is like basically the unfiltered version of our .NET Conf session, which is like Maddy's story time with all of the slides. The reason we shipped GA and .NET 6, even though we still had a ton of bugs, is because we had a bunch of library maintainers that were saying, we're not going to build MAUI support until you guys GA because we're worried it's just going to get killed. And that was creating a horrible vicious cycle because nobody could try out MAUI because none of the libraries they used were supported in MAUI. And so we had to basically say, we're GAing before we're like really proud of the quality of the product, literally just to send a signal to library maintainers that they need to move on to this technology so that our customers can actually start using MAUI and give us actionable feedback. So that's the story there. It's not great, but Scott, you came off mute. What do you want to add?
But by the way, it's the second time we've done this. We shipped .NET Core 1 because we had customers that said, if you don't ship it, we're going to leave. And so .NET Core 1 was not the best release. It wasn't until .NET Core 2 and 3 that we actually got things really figured out. But this is the second time we've had, outside asks that forced us to actually have to make a decision early.
Yeah. So, and, I was telling everyone, like, MAUI was really conceptualized in February 2020. So it's not like we had the best timing on things, but we got there. So yeah, definitely give it another shot. And one thing we're doing with .NET 9 is we're also like working on not shipping fixes with .NET every year. We're working on shipping them in the service releases. So you're going to get MAUI bug fixes way quicker. We have to kind of break a few .NET like sacred rules, and they're getting mad at us, which is fine. Love y'all. But we are trying to work on, striking the balance between supporting enterprises who can't bump versions all the time. That's just not something a lot of enterprises do, and that's okay. But also like keeping up with the landscape of mobile and bug fixes and everything. So cool. I promised I would talk about what the heck to do if you're on a Mac, because Visual Studio was the first demo I showed, and that's obviously just Windows. If you are hip with .NET Drama, Visual Studio for Mac is being sunsetted. That's the word we use. So it'll be sunsetted next August. And what we are doing to not really replace it, because it's not an IDE, but to still continue to have like a good development story on the Mac, albeit different, is we're starting to invest a lot more in VS Code. I'm not going to try and like switch machines, so I'm just going to do the VS Code demo on my Windows machine. But the good news about VS Code is it is the exact same on all the platforms. That's the beauty of it. We actually had a lot of asks for VS Code in general from MAUI developers. I don't know how many of you folks are in kind of like the hiring parts of your org, or, internships, mentoring, but like, I'm sure if you are, that kids these days use VS Code. And the thought of downloading a 20 gigabyte IDE is like mortifying to some of them. So we had a lot of asks right off the bat with MAUI, like, why isn't this in VS Code? And we were like, well, we have Visual Studio for Mac. We're not going to add a third thing to our plate. But with kind of the sunsetting of VS Mac, we were like, well, this is a really good time for us to actually put some love into the VS Code story. And so we've been doing that in conjunction with folks all across the .NET and VS teams. This is the .NET MAUI extension, which is an extension of C# Dev Kit. So if you install the .NET MAUI extension, how you get set up, you install the extension, it installs everything for you. So the C# extension is kind of like the next iteration of the OmniSharp C# extension. It's open source, it's LSP based, it's awesome, totally free, blah, blah, blah. C# Dev Kit is kind of like bringing the guts of C# .NET development. So this doesn't cover F#. There are actually some very good F# extensions in VS Code. So don't come at me if you're an F# developer. But it brings like kind of the guts of .NET C# development into VS Code to make VS Code just like understand the weird things we're doing in a .NET project that we've done since 2001 and then continued to change because, we couldn't make up our minds. And then the MAUI extension builds on top of that with the like knowledge of how to run things on mobile and desktop apps, right? So the C# Dev Kit extension is really for like console and web stuff you would do on the command line, right? And then MAUI adds the mobile. So don't be scared by the license thing. I am assuming that since most of you are .NET developers, you already all have Visual Studio licenses. But if you don't, there is a community license. And as long as you're not using it for a company that makes like millions of dollars, you can use it. You can also evaluate it for free. So chill. Very cool. All right. This is how we got VS Code support. Y'all should be thankful. This is the compromise we had to make. So basically, like, it's an editor. What C# Dev Kit brings in is the best part is the solution explorer. So this just actually opens a solution file and it says, oh, there are projects in this solution. And if I extend this project, there are files in it. And oh, a XAML file has a C# file nested under it. Like, it just does little things like that, makes your life easier. You can still go into the regular VS Code file explorer. This is what it would look like otherwise, but like you have to see your bin and OBJ. You have to see the CSproj file. It's not quite the same as just, the easiness of having a solution explorer. Oh, if you don't, if you don't have VS Code pets, this is the best extension. Total sidebar, unfiltered Maddy moment. It is literally just an extension that just sits there and you can add things to it, including the .NET bot, FYI. And they pop up and then you can throw a ball and they chase the ball. That's the tweet.
Say you
That's
need
the
to
extension.
throw the ball.
What? Run the ball? Yeah, the cat's chasing it. So anyways, this is the best VS Code extension. So besides the MAUI extension, I guess I should say. Anyways, once you have the MAUI extension installed, so VS Code, not an IDE, not going to do everything for you. We cannot just like right click install all the MAUI bits in VS Code like we can with Visual Studio. So there are some amount of setup, but the good thing is you can really mix and match things. If you're on a Mac, the setup is super easy. All you have to do is just install Xcode and .NET, but that's fairly trivial at this point. To get Android bits, you have to do a little bit of command line wizardry or download Android Studio if you want to use an IDE with like a SDK manager thing. But a little bit more setup. Once it's set up, you can just open like a XAML or a C# file and these curly braces pop up. Whoa. And I know you've all seen this demo if you watched any .NET Conf stuff, so I'm sorry to bore you, but I have to do it because if you haven't, nobody knows where these curly braces are. But you can just change your startup project and then you can change where you're debugging to. It's all in the command palette. So I have my Pixel installed. I don't have any Mac things connected to this. Or I could do my Windows device. Also, the thing with VS Code, for those of you who've been stuck in Visual Studio forever like me and don't know how to use VS Code, Control or Command-Shift-P opens like the all-power command palette menu thing. And you can literally do like anything from there. So if you just type MAUI, it shows you all of the different things. So you can pick the startup device from there too. You don't have to use the curly braces. You don't have to move your mouse. Very exciting. So if I do local machine and then I just hit run, I hit F5. You have to pick the MAUI debugger right now, but at some point you can just pick the same one with C# dev kit that just says C#. And it'll build it. It'll do all your NuGet package restore for you. All of that magic the dev kit extension handles. So if you've tried C# development in VS Code before the existence of this extension, and you've had to do all like the command line, custom build scripts and all that, this hopefully will make it easier. So, oh yeah, Steve, upgrading Xcode is like a half-day endeavor. And my Mac always runs out of storage space. So I'm constantly like, let me go through all of my NuGet package caches, like delete. I think actually, I think James Montemagno is the one who had like a script somewhere on a blog or the internet that's like, erase all Xamarin bits. And I still use that. So don't get rid of that blog post. But yeah, so the app popped up, same old. VS Code, much lighter weight. It is, the MAUI extension is not GA yet. It's still in preview. The C# dev kit extension is like generally available or whatever. What we're waiting for before we consider the MAUI extension like ready to roll GA is better. Yes, that's it, James. Better XAML and IntelliSense support. Right now, it literally just treats this like an XML file. So you start typing and it just looks at valid words in the file. So not very smart. And if you, like me, have the memory of a goldfish and never remember any XAML property names until Visual Studio tells it to you, this is painful. So that we're working on a lot. And I actually just saw like a prototype of some of the stuff. We're modernizing the XAML language service all up. So it will get better for both Visual Studio and VS Code devs, but it's getting there. And then the other thing is hot reload. Dave and I both did most of our preparation for .NET Conf on our MacBooks, and using VS Code only because we're trying to be good, product managers, use the product. And let me tell you, I forgot what the world was like before XAML hot reload. I couldn't get anything done. I was like making a change and I was like, this is gonna look good. And then I run the app and I'd wait like 10 seconds and I was like, oh my God, that's completely wrong. And then you have to stop the app and then you have to change and then you have to. Anyways, so I will not like on premise call this extension GA until there is some form of a hot reload in here because it is literally painful to use. So that's that. that's VS Code. We can always dive more into that if people are interested, but I know that this is a .NET gang. So I want to also show a lot of things in Visual Studio, because at the same time as .NET 8, we also shipped 17.8, Visual Studio 17.8, and then the 17.9 preview. And I had to keep this slide. I used this slide. This will be a slightly different demo than what I showed at .NET Conf, but I was so proud of this rhyme. I'm going to give this demo all the time. Hot off the press in VS. Just so good. Anyways, let me close out of that. I'm going to close out of that before my computer starts getting mad at me. Let me open. We're going to open it from the installer, so I make sure I'm using the right version of Visual Studio. Let's launch the internal preview so I can show you all my different themes and stuff that I've been customizing. I will pause here while VS wakes up and I open the... Oh, John, really? Listen, I'm not part of the TikTok generation, even though I spent a lot of time on TikTok. So I'm just not that funny yet. Okay. Any questions, concerns, things that I should talk more about, things that people want to see more of while I let this kind of wake up here?
You guys are more than welcome to come off mute and ask your questions if you would like, or pop them in chat.
So far, so good. I'll take it.
I would, but I'm kind of bashful.
You don't have to be. Hopefully,
Oh,
I'm not
he's
too
one of the...
scary.
No. He's one of the least
No,
bashful.
don't encourage him, please. Don't.
Yeah, no. You put a guitar in his hands, he's ready to sing.
Oh, God.
Oh, wait. Oh, yours. I know somebody else that sings. By the way, Carl Franklin says hi.
Oh, hi, Carl.
Yeah,
Dude.
he's not here yet, but I'll get him
We've
later.
been joking about doing like a .NET super group and like make everyone in .NET who plays instruments make a song together, because there is probably like 30 or 40 people. We have a lot of people who do like DJing and production and like that kind of stuff too. So Scott, it's an extension in VS Code. It's just called VS Code Pets. That's it. It might be VS Code - Pets. It's so good. All right.
We'll install that. Thank you.
Yep, I got you. Only the fun stuff with me. So, all right. VS 17.9. Modern UI. We like kind of modernized it, so that's cool. Excuse me. Also, new themes. Of course, have to talk about the exciting stuff. There is a purple theme. Oh, wow, that was great timing. Beautiful. There's also other themes. I know most people don't get excited by themes. I get excited by themes. I still am traumatized from the time that James, and I hope you deny this because it's terrifying, showed me the all red theme he was using. And I was literally like, this is the most painful thing I've looked at in my entire life. But purple's better. So anyways, basic things. With VS, there are a lot of things that make like just general UI development easier. Why did that not load right? I'm in sample code here that was literally uploaded earlier because I wanted to show this app, but I might switch back to my file new project. Oh God. With the red theme. It's so bad. We'll see if this builds. Oh, the hot dog stand theme is fun too. It's like red and yellow, right? It's just heinous in some way. Oh, that works totally fine. Oh, Visual Studio. So I'm going to show you how I navigate when I'm going to go give a sample, or when I'm going to go give a demo and someone sends me their app and they're like, yeah, you can demo this code. And I'm like, I don't know where anything is in this code base. I'm going to show you how I find my way around. And this is literally what happened last year when Dave Ortnow built this app like 4 days before .NET Conf, and then was like, this is the app we're going to demo. And I was like, this is the what? And I had no idea what he had done because he like did it on the flight here. And I was like, okay, well, hopefully I know my way. Hopefully I can like figure out my way around. Right. So, this was just an app he built that was like taking orders, right? Kind of like a toast type thing. And what I can do with live preview here, oh, I didn't mean to unpin you. Hold on. is, hold on. We might be going into a different Visual Studio instance because this one's not being played to me. Yep. Back to the not internal preview. What you should see is it highlights everything, which is exciting. Let's just do the demo app. And then we'll come back and see if that plays nicely later. Oh yeah, John, thank you. Got all my guys sending links in the chat. This is great. Oh, stretch. Okay. Let that run. This should be hopefully quick because I already built and ran it. Famous last words. Let's go. Windows, good. Yeah, that popped up fine. Oh my God, Bill, that's so cool. What the?
Yeah, thanks. So I'm pretty serious about my music.
That's amazing. That's really, really cool.
Thanks.
How long did that take? Like a year? Like a month?
No.
It took me 3 weeks to build it. And I'm ramping up to, I've got a YouTube channel that's really primitive, but I bought a green screen and I've bought some new video equipment.
Nice.
Got a digital recording studio, so I plan on ramping up, doing a lot of songwriting. I've got 2 local musicians, and I may even pull Sean in to play guitar a little bit and start collaborating on some stuff.
That's awesome. That's super cool.
Yeah, Bill is actually, he's also my martial arts sensei.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God, why is that so cool? How do you have time for all these hobbies? All I do is like sit around lounging like a sickly Victorian woman and complaining about the weather.
You play TikTok. We're not on TikTok.
Once a month, I open the app. And I open it because our band has a TikTok account and I have to try and post because I'm like trying to be hip. And once a month, I open it and I fall into the trap for like 4 hours. And then I'm like, I'm done. Like I'm deleting this app. And I do that every month. So, all right, we're back in the template. Not as exciting as Dave's app, but he pushed up a bunch of code changes at like 4 p.m. because I pinged him and was like, can you push up your demo? And I didn't really test it, so that is my fault. This is the live preview window. This does not pop open by default. You need to go debug Windows, XAML live preview. And then I just pin it. You can also like move around all the Visual Studio windows. So if you have multiple monitors, you can put this on a different monitor, but it's very nice for a single screen demo. I have the actual app running like on my desktop, like a desktop app too, which is, this is where you interact with it. But live preview is basically there to help you like investigate the UI of the app and figure out like what's going on. So as you hover over it, you see it gives me information like this is a vertical stack layout. It's defined in main page. This is the size it's currently rendered at, and like some basic properties, right? It even gives you app shell, which in MAUI is how we describe kind of like the hierarchy of the application, the navigation, just the general properties across the board. So this will give you things like, this is the background color of the app. This is what the tab bar is supposed to be, like all these things. And so it's cool if I click around in here, it doesn't actually click the app. It takes me to where in the code it's defined. So in one of those larger apps, like Dave's point of sale app, right? Like he's probably got things defined in control templates or like, you know, item view.xaml, and that gets loaded into homepage.xaml. And so I don't have to poke around and find all those things. I can actually just click on it in the app and it pops me to where it is. And you can see also on this side, it's moving around. This is the live visual tree. And this is showing the same thing, but like text-wise and as a hierarchy. So it's showing me what is actually defined in the hierarchy of my view, similar to like if you did the web inspect tools, right? And then as you hover over it, it'll show it to you in the live visual tree. And then when you click on it, it takes you to where it's defined. Super simple. So that is like, this is my Visual Studio like layout when I'm doing UI development. It obviously changes when I do things like my view model stuff. Like I don't really need to look at my app in the thing. So I'll unpin this and maybe I'll pull up, you know, my solution explorer because I'm going to be clicking between files all the time. But this is generally where I start with UI. One thing that you'll see come out in VS 17.9 Preview 2 is the Live Property Explorer, which currently doesn't do anything. It literally just doesn't show you anything for MAUI. We're actually letting it show you things for MAUI. So now in 17.9 Preview 2, it'll show you like, these are all the possible values that you can put on a label. Type them into the box. One thing we hear a lot is like, where is my MAUI designer? I'm a WinForms developer. And I saw that question in the chat, which I will get back to too. Like, I want to drag boxes onto the screen. Yeah, that would be great. Unfortunately, like the way that mobile devices and desktop devices and like layouts are built are not quite conducive the way that they used to be with something like a designer. Like, it's really hard to do layouting from a static image, right? So, and it's also very hard to make it easy for you to define, like, this should be a grid, and like, this is how these things should pop into that grid. What usually happens with a designer is we end up absoluting everything. And then when you shrink the app or you put it on a desktop instead of a mobile phone or something, like the proportions are completely wrong. And it's a really hard problem to solve. And so if I had unlimited engineering resources and all the time in the world, I would build you a designer. I would love to do that. I don't. So what we're doing in the meantime, until either like ChatGPT or Copilot does it for you, or someone solves this problem for me, is we're trying to give you all of the bits and bobs that make a designer useful without the actual like writing your layout in XAML for you. I know that's not a one-for-one replacement. I hear you. And we're also looking at ways to get something to generate like basic XAML layouts and not be a huge pain for you. But we keep adding these things, the Live Preview Explorer, Live Property Explorer. We're working a lot on hot reload reliability and just like making sure that it tells you if or if not it worked. Live Visual Tree, even Live Preview, we're looking at making this run not under the debugger, so you can just open a page and Live Preview will pop up and you can see a preview of your app without running the app. Like, these are all things we're looking at. We hear you on that. So totally valid. The other thing I mentioned, like if I'm doing view model development, let me pull up my Solution Explorer, shrink this a little bit. This is not an MVVM architected app. This is, you know, the MVVM purists are not happy with how our templates are, but that's okay. They're very easy to follow. This is literally just like the button counter handler.
Wait a minute. Did you say MVVM? I thought that was outlawed like 8 years ago.
No, dude, it's still all the rage. You got it. The MAUI, like, Xamarin Forms was very tightly coupled to MVVM. Like, if you weren't doing MVVM, you were having a bad time.
That's true.
Yeah. MAUI, we kind of took all of the reliance on that out. So MVVM and XAML are still like the default ways that people do things. And also like all of the Xamarin docs and content do things that way. So it's easy to continue doing it that way. But we've seen a lot of popularity. There's a reactive UI extension that they came out with for MAUI that's amazing. We've seen people just doing like C# UI and like MVU style, like basically doing like their DIY controller architecture. Like, there's a whole bunch of different things. The MAUI app accelerator extension by who builds it? Oh my God, I'm so mad. Matt Lacey builds it. He actually like gives you different things like to toggle, like, oh, I want to do like C# for markup for my UI, or like I want this to be a reactive UI app, blah, 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 and he'll spit out a template for you like that, which is really helpful. But yeah. So don't get me started on MVVM. I think that was like my first year of being on this team, was like, why do we do this? Why? And then it clicked and I was like, oh my God, why would anyone not do this? I'm like the kind of person I hate. So whatever. Anyways.
We are talking about the same thing, right? Model view model pattern. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. When the first time I had to write like an iNotify property changed, or like James was like, here's a base view model, copy paste this file from GitHub in. And I was like, what on earth are you making me do right now? And now I'm like, it makes so much sense. But okay. That's a rant for another day.
Thanks.
Anyways, you can also edit your code while the app is running. So this is like baby's first demo. I know this isn't like super cool, but basically if it's inside of a function, you can change it. You currently cannot change the signature of a function. That's something we're working on. But in this case, like before I reload this app, when I click it, it goes up by 1. So I'm going to leave it on 3. I'm going to do count plus equals 2. I'm going to hit save, and that's going to hot reload my app. That icon grays out and then it ungrays out. You can also just hit this icon. You have to opt into hot reload on file save. So just make sure you check that off if you're interested. But yeah, it just pushes it and it reloads in my app. And then now it's going up by 2. And you can tell because it's only odd numbers. So if you're trying to do like, really because it's only in the function right now, it's good if you have like your view model scaffolded out and you're trying to figure out like how you're actually going to transform the data. Or you're starting to work on like adding is busy versus not is busy to like pulling down a collection view or something. But we're also expanding on that a lot. One of my like big things for 2024 is I would like this to have a little spinny thing on it that says, we're working on your hot reload right now. And then a little green check mark that says your hot reload worked. This is like the personal vendetta I'm on. So if you don't see that by the end of 2024, you can call me out on that. But yeah, then there's a bunch of other things. I mean, silly things in VS that make a huge difference if you're using like a giant ultra wide monitor, which I know is all the rage these days, like tabs on the left, and you can group them by different projects or by file type, like little things like that. Just we continue to add things and they're always really small. We added this what's new page. I don't know how to open it now that IDE is open. That's actually pretty funny. I wonder if I search. Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm so good. I know how to use Visual Studio. This generally will tell you like the latest stuff, and they're pretty little and short things. So always worth a look, but we keep adding things and nobody knows how to find them. So, you know, when you find them, share them. I submitted a talk for, a conference next summer that was literally, it's like a 10-minute lightning talk, and I was like, I'm gonna show my 10 favorite VS features in 10 minutes. So once I have that down, maybe I'll like put that on the internet somewhere and everyone can watch. But it's gonna be stupid things like, look, the tabs, like, oh my gosh, it's purple. Like these are the things I love. Someone asked about upgrading WinForms to MAUI. So we'll get into the full story of that in a minute, but I do want to show you, if you have a Xamarin app, there is this thing called the Upgrade Assistant. It is an extension. And it is installed, right? Oh, it's installed on my int preview. My goodness. Hold on. I'll just search it. And then we'll install it. And it will be great. Upgrade Assistant. And this does quite a few things. It does like .NET 7 to .NET 8 or .NET 6 to .NET 7. It helps with ASP.NET Framework to ASP.NET Core. It helps with WPF on Framework to WPF on .NET Core. But we've done a lot of things for Xamarin Forms to MAUI to make that easier. I think I'm going to have to restart the IDE to make this load. So let's do that. Let me actually try my internal preview too and see if that's going to play nicely now. But it doesn't do everything. I have a whole bunch of talks and resources and everything on like how to upgrade your app and like things to do that will make your life easier to prepare. If you are oh, the chat's blown out, sorry. If you are someone who has a Xamarin app and wants to talk about upgrading with me at any point, feel free to pop your name in the chat. Definitely happy to talk. But yeah, you can right click and then go to upgrade. Where is it? Good morning. Hello. Oh, maybe the solution. That's why. No. Project. I was right. Am I missing it? No, I have it installed. Extensions. Manage extensions. Installed. .NET Upgrade Assistant. So. Oh, wait. Oh, I know. Hold on. I'm sorry. It's almost 9 p.m. in Boston. This is not my fault. This is a MAUI project that's running .NET 8. So it literally has nothing to upgrade. Hold on. Let me see if I have a Xamarin project lying around. We'll just make a new one. Let's just do that. I don't even know if I have Xamarin installed. Oh my God. I do. That's good. App 1. Create. Oh God. Create my blank zip right now. Point click. You see? With commentary. That's what makes it fun. All you have to do is right click on your solution project and where's upgrade? Hello. Please wake up. Good morning, Visual Studio. It's loading. It's loading Copilot. It's loading all my stuff. It's usually right here. Yeah, the upgrade assistant is pretty nifty. And since it's an extension, it ships out of band from Visual Studio, which means that they sometimes ship things very quickly. Sometimes, it ships around the same time as Visual Studio, so it's not a big deal. But when it does ship out of sync, it's always nice to get that bump. Where is this? What is going on here? All right. We'll try it in preview again. I'm going to have to reinstall everything. But yeah, you can right click upgrade. It gives you a bunch of options. What I would do, my recommendation, Xamarin Forms to MAUI, is keep everything blown out into different projects. And then if you want to make everything a single MAUI project later on, you can. Don't try to refactor your entire app because you see all the tech debt from when you started building it 5 years ago. And you're like, now's a great time to fix all of that. No, make it work on MAUI first, and then you can fix all that later. When it comes to WinForms and WPF, there is no direct migration to MAUI right now because they're different flavors of XAML, right? Like the actual XAML syntax is different. And I don't fight with me about what XAML syntax means. The API that you talked about in XAML is different, blah, blah, blah. I get it. The XAML flavor is different. We are looking at ways to make that easier. I think Copilot, I've actually been asking Copilot, like, hey, take this XAML and make it work in MAUI. And sometimes it does a really good job. So that can be helpful. The path that I've seen people start to modernize both WinForms and WPF apps on right now, if you want to make them cross-platform, is to start using Blazor in those apps. Because WPF and WinForms also have Blazor web views. So if you take a page in your WinForms app and you rebuild it in Blazor, or you take the Blazor code from the same app you have running on the web or the similar app, and you put it in your Blazor web view on WinForms or WPF, eventually, once you have enough Blazor in there, it's going to be pretty trivial to just switch out the shell from WPF or whatever, WinForms, to MAUI. And then there will still be some things you need to rewrite. If you're targeting specifically Windows, some of those APIs will stay the same anyways, so it's not a huge deal. Some of them will have to change because it is a WinUI thing. So, no, not MAUI app. No. File. Visual Studio also needs a bourbon tonight. I get it. It's fine. So, yeah, that's something, I don't know. That's something we've seen people start trying to do, like modernizing to MAUI via Blazor. We've also had a couple customers call us and be like, we're rewriting our WPF app in MAUI. And I'm like, cool, that sounds great. We want to make that easier. I think that is definitely something we're going to look at, but our focus is still on just making sure that like MAUI itself is very stable. We don't have some things that WPF developers want, such as a tree view. Please do not yell at me. Our control vendors in the community make really amazing tree views that you can use. So let's try this again. Let's see if this plays nicely with me. Yeah, John, I don't know, like, hi, Jeremy! Beans! I don't know why, but my right-click menu falls apart every time I need it to function. So whatever. There it is, upgrade. You all saw it installed in the int preview and it didn't pop up. So not my problem, but whatever. You got a couple options here. Like we could do in place or side by side. I would do side by side into a new MAUI project and keep the MAUI project split out to have like the different Android and iOS apps. I don't have any iOS stuff installed right now, which is why that's unloaded. You can do it to a new project or an existing project. You can do app one MAUI. It's going to give you the thing. Just go through and click the correct options for you. Don't just haphazardly click like I'm doing. Point and click. And then it goes through and upgrades everything. So it does the namespaces. It does the CS proj file so that it actually uses like the modern project file structure, which Xamarin was not using. It rips out NuGet packages and replaces them with like sane replacements for everything we know about. And then it zhuzhes it all together. It probably will not run. Your app will probably not run immediately. So you have to do a little bit of whack-a-mole by just like building the app, seeing what the error is and fixing it. And then if it's something that Upgrade Assistant should be able to fix, like you're like, that is a XAML namespace that really should have been replaced, right? Then you should file that on us because we'll make Upgrade Assistant do it. But we can't see every customer in the world source code, so we don't know the things that you do that we should be transforming without you telling us. But like you can see, this is the same main page, XAML, welcome to Xamarin Forms, but instead of having the Xamarin namespace, it's the MAUI namespace, right? So we do the little things like that to get you on your way. Another thing we've been doing is, I wonder what a good way to demo this is. One thing that you will see pop up in a Xamarin, in a MAUI app, if you copy paste files over from Xamarin. So I wonder if I try and do this, if this will work or yell at me. We're demoing on the fly. We've gone off the rails. Yeah, let's replace it. Let's see what happens. Yeah, why not? We started adding light bulbs into. Yeah. Oh, I'm so good. I know how to do my job. This is so exciting. We started adding light bulbs in that are like, this is a Xamarin like namespace. Please use the MAUI namespace. So I think I just clicked the wrong one, but you saw it pop up. I'm not crazy. I don't know why the thing is covering it. That's a bug. I have to go file now. But yeah, we started adding light bulbs. So if you're just copy pasting Xamarin stuff over by hand, we're going to start giving you quick fixes slowly but surely to make your life better. Yeah, there we go. Why is this doing this? What is going on here? Okay. That's that. That's my point and click. I went a little bit over an hour. Sorry in advance. .NET 9 is happening. We talked about what we're planning for MAUI for .NET 9 today with the whole .NET team. So that was exciting. We talked about Upgrade Assistant. Thank you to everyone who's been an amazing community member for MAUI. Everyone who's nice to us on the internet. We really appreciate you. Jeremy, love you. Everyone who builds like packages for .NET in general, but also like MAUI. We also love you. Thank you for being great. Definitely catch up on the MAUI content at .NETConf. There was a ton. Yes, we just released 2 weeks ago, Scott. 2 weeks ago. So, on to the next one. I went home for Thanksgiving. I went to my mom's house and I took all of that turkey and I ingested it and I said, time for .NET 9. That's the way the news goes over here. But yeah, so that is the unfiltered Maddy whirlwind tour. I will put my email in the chat so you have it if you have questions, comments, or concerns. Questions, chat, jokes. Anyone else want to complain about the Patriots? Jeff, Bill, you've got your hand up. What's up?
I'm sorry, I hit the wrong icon. I was trying to hit the clap one. Yeah, It was. Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did have raised hand. I hit the wrong one. No,
Fine.
that's the raised hand. Two different ones. I don't know.
That's fine.
When you get my age, you can't hardly get around no more. It's just terrible.
Oh, God.
All right. Any
The Apple
questions
Store teaches
before?
classes. They do iPhone.
I've been in this chair for an hour. I don't think I'll be able to stand up now. Oh, I seen that. She's getting her feet up. Did you see that, Sean?
Yeah.
She knows it's getting deep.
I'm stretching out. I'm also like, oh, my knees hurt.
Oh, there's a good question from Jeremy.
Love it. How close to the MAUI team and WinApp SDK teams working together on features and bugs? Good question. So we do have a process by which we will report bugs to the WinApp SDK team, and we talk to them regularly. We know them, we talk to them. I think it's not so much of how close we are on terms of working on them, but more how we are able to help them prioritize those over all of their other asks, right? Like they have a lot of customers. Bye, John. Thanks. They have a lot of customers that, are their entire business runs on WinApp SDK, and they don't want to fix bugs for us before they fix bugs for those people in a lot of cases. Sometimes, our stuff takes priority, and they've also been kind enough to like help get some of the Maui folks on ramped into WinApp SDK so that we can contribute things if we need to too. But it's not so much that we're not working together, just that we have like not even competing priorities, just like not necessarily always aligned priorities. So yeah, it's tough, but they're nice to us. We're nice to them, or so I think. I'm nice to them. I can't speak for everybody else. So why is MAUI all capital letters? Because it's an acronym for multi-platform app UI. Because Microsoft can't name things in a fun way. We have to name it horribly, always. I have grown to love MAUI, though. I think it's a great acronym. And we've really leaned into like the Hawaiian theming, like the .NET bot on the surfboard. That's like my guy, lots of flowers. So, yeah.
All right. Any other questions before we stop the recording? All right. I'll stop this here in just a second. Maddy, thank you again for coming out to the Tulsa.NET user group. And this was great. I appreciate it.